Welcome to Ex Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us on another edition of Ex Machina. We got a nearly packed house tonight. We got Robbie Rip Rains from South Carolina, and from across town, Steve Wildman Monrotis joining us from his I almost use the word convalescence, but he's on vacation. So Steve's kicked back and enjoying a cold winter six, and we're just glad he's here with us and hanging out. So,
here, Steve.
Folks, boys, how the hell are you?
Oh, to quote our friend Doc, Wyatt, I am rolling.
Slanja.
No, in all seriousness,
I'm a pure hillbilly drinking out of a mason jar.
There you go. That's the only way it tastes good. No,
Yeah.
in all seriousness, overdid it with my bum leg a little bit today, so I'm not as mobile as I'd like to be. So I figured if I'm going to be laid up, I might as well be laid up comfortable.
So instead of being agile, mobile, and hostile, he's just agile and hostile.
I don't even know about agile. I think I'm just hostile.
Hey, that sounds about like me. I mean, I'm not as agile as I once was, and but like they said on Lord of the Rings, we dwarves are natural sprinters, very dangerous over short distances.
Yeah, I consider myself to be temperamental. I'm 99% temper, 1% mental. So.
That's me and Robbie. We're wasted on cross country, man.
Yeah, oh, of course. Yep, very dangerous over short distances.
Very short
distances, like 2 feet.
Pistol range.
Yeah.
Up to and including 7 yards that can't be beat.
That's right. Well, it looks like we've already got a pretty full house. There's already almost 100 people in. We're just a couple minutes in, just still heckling and saying howdy to folks. A lot of folks in the chat tonight, seeing a lot of familiar faces in there, seeing a lot of new ones. And really happy you guys are here. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please take a second and hit that subscribe and like button. It helps with the YouTube algorithm and helps us continue to grow the channel. We're still seeing that the algorithm is showing us that about 40% of the people who watch our videos are not subscribed to the channel. So it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. You just you can make sure you hit that little bell icon so you get notified anytime we go live. And we would love to have you as a member of the Ex MachiNation. So please like, share, and subscribe, and tell folks about it that enjoy this kind of content. We would certainly appreciate it. Little Patty says, hi, Steve. Hope you get to feel better soon.
Oh, thanks, Patty. No, I'm not doing too bad. I was actually doing pretty well walking without my brace, and I kind of overdid it. We took a trip to Sam's, and I think I met my match with the 50-pound bag of dog food up 3 flights of stairs. But
that'll do it, man.
I was either going to say the 50-pound bag of dog food or the 35-pound jar of mayonnaise that you could get at Sam's.
Hey,
everything's in bulk. Hey, I don't know. I don't want to know what Steve needs 35 pounds of mayonnaise for.
Hey, that 10-pound tub of Vaseline is what got me all the looks at the checkout line.
Anthony Coker posted this. It's on his account. It's his grandpa. His grandpa's named Alan Kelly. Folks, if you take a minute sometime in the next night or two and say a quick prayer for Mr. Kelly, he's having some heart issues. He's in the hospital, and believe me, I 100% understand what he's going through. So a kind word, a kind thought, and a prayer their direction would be much appreciated. And we're just happy that he's still with us and is hanging out and enjoying the show, and also seems to like the books as well. So that is even a bigger awesome. So hey, Alan, I hope you get to feeling better, man. We'll be praying for you.
And Gary in the chat, keep Gary in your prayers too. I know he's feeling a little bit better, but Gary Spikes.
Gary, we certainly praying for you, brother.
Yeah, definitely.
Gary Lowe says, Kevin having to drink Yingling and Maker's Mark instead of my PBR and Bullet. Well, you traded up, man. Sorry.
I was going to say,
definitely an upgrade.
I'm drinking Yingling and Johnny Walker, so I'm feeling pretty good, actually.
And nothing wrong with that. Well, boys, yeah. I think it's going to be a good one tonight. We're going to be talking about pale crawlers, and those damn things creep me out.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those things that, I have not seen one. But there are a lot of sightings, including one just over by your house, Steve.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you look at
Is
that,
it?
look at the link, that map I sent you. It's
Okay.
actually just a couple miles from where you live.
That's wonderful.
We
You
were talking
know,
about that before you popped on tonight.
I do have a serious question for y'all. Now, I know when you're encountering something that just ain't quite human, and you get that icky feeling from it, the uncanny valley. Is there a flip side of that? Like the feeling you get when something is just unnatural in its movement, like the way those pale walkers and shit moves.
Oh
I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I mean,
what do they
Mhm.
yeah,
call that? Because it
I don't
freaks
know
the
if
hell
there's
out
a
of me.
term for it. I don't know if there is a term for it. I can't think of it. I mean, you'd think me being a writer, I would know a bunch of useful terms, but that one's escaping me. But I know exactly what you talk about. What you're
Hey,
talking about when you see something and you know it's just not natural.
Well,
Annie
look
yeah.
Mrs.
at
her daughter and her saw one back in 2020. I'd love to hear the details of that. That would be awesome.
It's like when you watch Pan's Labyrinth and you see some of the shit that Doug Jones does. You're like,
Mhm.
yeah, I know he's human, but that shit ain't right. There's a name for it. I just wish if anybody in the peanut gallery knows what it is, please elucidate me because I have no idea.
Um, Robbie, this one's
yeah,
for you.
I'm answering it right now. Yeah.
So we watched Bone Tomahawk today, Serious Nightmare Fuel. You know, the thing about Bone Tomahawk, and I know we're already jumping off topic, but that is such a great movie. I just watched it a couple nights ago for like the third time with my wife. I know it freaks Robbie out when they cut that dude in half. Oh my God. That
Dude,
scene still gives me the heebie jeebies.
dude, look, I will go out in the woods and
Robbie.
I will face a dog man down. I will face Bigfoot down. That shit right there is just wrong. That movie was just it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love Nightmare on Elm Street. I love Friday the 13th. Love all those movies. I hate Texas Chainsaw Massacre because it's real.
Right.
That's the crap that freaks me out. Or not, it doesn't freak me out, I just don't like it. It's sickening because it's actually real.
Makes you uncomfortable.
Well,
So
the thing
you're
about
watching
Bone
that.
Tomahawk is, they had those whistles implanted, and they would like ring back and screech. That movie, you could have taken the weird caved what they call them, troglodytes. You could have taken them out and inserted a Bigfoot creature, and it would have been a fantastic Bigfoot movie. I mean,
Yeah, and
I
it
think
would
that was
not have
kind of what they were hinting at, that these
it
were
would
like a
not have
native tribe that
affected me the
weren't quite
same way.
human. Do
It
what?
would not have affected me the same way if it'd been like a Bigfoot or a dog man or something like that. But humans sitting there quartering another human.
Well,
Yeah.
I know it really happens. That's what I'm
it's
saying.
happened.
Well,
Throughout
think
our
about it.
humans' history, there have been cannibals. Lots
Think
of
about it.
cases of it.
When have you seen me on edge and really not comfortable when we were outside at a location? Da, when have you seen that? Where were we at? Moon Valley. And what did you ask me? You're like, dude, why are you
Yeah,
so on edge?
because that's where the cannibals were.
I'm like, the fucking cannibals.
Yeah, that really happened. So, yeah, I understand when it's human on human, it kind of hits a little closer to home. But there's indications that these pale crawlers have killed people,
Yeah.
and I don't know what the
Nope,
hell they
Gary,
are. I
I
mean,
am
I
not.
don't even know if they're truly a cryptid. Are they paranormal? Are they a cryptid? Are they just a different type of Wendigo? I can't say with any degree of certainty what these things are.
Yeah, they're a little hard to classify.
Mm-hmm.
And then the line is blurred by all the creepypasta stuff that with the rake that kind of muddies the line of truth there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a good movie, Vicky. Dog Soldiers.
That
That's
is
a
a
good
good
movie.
movie.
Bone Tomahawk is not a good movie.
It's a good movie. It's just
No, it's not. If
there's a
they'd put
couple of scenes
Bigfoot
that are
in it,
just horrifying.
if they put a Bigfoot in it, it'd been a good movie. The way it stands, it is not a good movie. That's a hill that I will die on.
I picture him being a movie critic. There's just not enough Bigfoot in this movie. It's not a Bigfoot movie.
I think you probably have
Exactly.
the same reaction to The Hills Have Eyes.
Oh, I've watched it too. Look, I've watched Ravenous. I watched what was the one with the the plane crash up in the hills with the soccer team or football team or rugby team or whatever, where they ended up eating each other. I've watched that one. I've watched Bone Time. I've watched all that stuff. I just, I'd be out there chewing on a piece of tree bark before I would be doing any of the other stuff.
Well, we know Robbie's kryptonite.
I would rather hold a tarantula in my hand than watch Bone Tomahawk again. And you two know what I'm saying when I say that.
Oh yeah, I got you.
It's funny.
Well, I mentioned that they believe that that pale crawlers have killed people, and a couple of cool things come to mind. The one that really stands out was a sighting on April 19th of 2022. And guess where it was? Elkhorn, Wisconsin, where the Beast of Bray Road is at. Is there a connection there? Or are these things drawn to that kind of area? I don't know. I mean,
now
this place is already famous for Dogman.
I don't know that it's true or not. You can look it up, DA, and find out. I have heard that there's a couple ley lines that run through that area too, where the Beast of Bray Elkhorn.
Well, there are Native American mounds in that area. We already know that.
Noah, maybe you can behind the scenes, maybe you can check and see if that's true. I've heard it. I've never seen any concrete proof that that's what it is, but that would make a lot of sense if you're seeing. Because, and I want to say it was the Small Town Monsters documentary on the Beast of Bray Road, where they got talking into the they were talking to somebody, and they were talking about I think they said something about the pale crawlers in that movie or that documentary, if I'm not mistaken, and they said that they thought that was the reason because of the ley lines that were in the area. Now maybe it wasn't the Small Town Monster, but it seemed like one of the documentaries I watched, that's what they were talking about, is the ley lines having the like a convergence. Well, we found out what the LBL was like a vortex, and I think that's 3, but a convergence is 2, I think.
Well, there's a convergence just south of Springfield, out toward Table Rock Lake. I don't know exactly where the convergence is, but I found it on the map. Had a good comment I wanted to cover. Annie B says, I'm in Michigan, and there was our encounter and 2 others in the same area that summer. And then Audacious Amber says, what do you think about the theory that one cryptid keeps other cryptids in check? I think it's entirely possible, especially if they're competing for the same resources.
Well, there's talk about Bigfoot and Dogman being in turf wars all the time. So, I mean, I guess there's probably some credence to that theory.
Ryan said some tribes call the pale crawlers the Gogoot, the people before the people. So where there's mounds or burial sites, it only makes sense there's crawlers there. Kind of like what the British referred to as burial wights, WIGHT, or the Norse had something similar. I'm trying to remember what it was called, but they were guardians of the burial mounds.
It's like the Draugr.
Draugr,
yeah, the Draugr. I could not think of what it was called. Trying to see if I missed any other. Seeing if I missed anything. Sorry. I think we're caught up on those. But the other comment this one was June 14th, 2008, near a forested area in Higgins Lake, Michigan, in which 2 unnamed men were injured and 1 was killed. Police claimed it was a bear attack. The validity of the bear attack is unlikely, as the video that has since been lost was shown to disprove the theory. There was a video, and the video got basically scrubbed from the internet.
They took it for evidence, DA. It didn't get scrubbed.
Evidence.
Yeah.
But it's still an open case, so you can't get it.
Yep. Cannot fool you.
Yeah.
And then another one, July 23rd, 2013, in upstate New York near Niagara. I'm sorry. I was thinking Niagara, Missouri. Niagara. A crawler was seen by a park ranger who would lose his job, ended up losing his job due to unruly conduct, poor mental capacity, and an inability to distinguish reality from fiction. The crawler was caught on camera, but the Ranger Service confiscated it as official evidence. And they fired the ranger for not being able to tell reality from fiction.
Among other things. Did you read
Yeah.
up? There's like three
Oh,
or four things they fired him for.
Yeah, that's just nuts. You know, these things aren't just seen here, too. I mean, there's been sightings in Asia, Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand, all over Europe, parts of the Middle East. But the bulk of the sightings I've been able to find were here in North America, with quite a few of them in Canada, but more of them here. But I kind of relate that to being the United States being far more populous than Canada. It's kind of like with Bigfoot sightings. You would think Canada would be prime habitat, yet there's a lot less Bigfoot sightings in Canada than there are here. But if you based it on population, the number of accounts in Canada would certainly, outstrip the United States, because per capita there are a lot more sightings.
Right, they just have less capita.
Right.
Well, I was about to say you got to have the person doing the sighting to have the sighting. I mean, if it just makes sense. I mean, if you got a creature that lives here and a creature that lives here, but there's way more people that live over here with this creature than over here with this creature, the chances of more sightings being over here are gonna be greater because there's more people. That's just
right.
That math.
Yeah. Ryan had a good comment, and I was already kind of leaning this way. In fact, I think him and I talked about this. He says, personally, I think these things have a strong tie to the Wendigo. Look at the Cree, Ojibwe, and Algonquin description of the Wendigo lines up with crawlers. Yeah, I thought that. Heck, I said that in the intro when I was talking about it. I think that they may be some kind of Wendigo, or at least something very closely related to them. And especially since we're seeing them near burial mounds, I mean, maybe they're eating the dead.
Well,
that's not at all uncomfortable.
There's a lot of cultures who have their myths about the eaters of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Vikings, Chinese have a myth about it, or legend, folklore, whatever you want to call it. Most of the First Nation tribes have that. That's something that's kind of, it's bad as I hate to say it, because that's kind of it's kind of something that used to go on a lot back in those days. So
yeah,
because there's a lot of people like the what's that tribe in India that the Wild Boys, Chris Pontius and Steve O used to go and hang out with. I can't think, but they're not practicing cannibals anymore. But in times past, they were cannibalistic tribe in India. So, and not for nothing, they're still in Papua New Guinea and places like that. They're still practicing.
There are tribes in Africa that are hit.
Yeah.
They talked about it in the book Congo. I mean, Michael Crichton researched that area, and they talked about a tribe that were still headhunters that lived in the Congo region. So they're still out there. I mean, it's not as an abolished practice as we would like to think. The civilized world, quote unquote, has kind of walked away from it, except for in rare cases where you hear about it, like down in Dallas County back in 2019. But for the most part, it's considered a cultural taboo. But in some regions of the world, some far back corners of dark places we don't generally go, it's a practice that's still alive and well.
Yeah.
Alan Kelly, Anthony's grandfather, he said, I was a truck driver for years, and I've driven all over the United States. I've heard a lot of weird stories from different drivers. I used to tell them to Anthony as ghost stories. My brother was a truck driver for years, and he had a lot of weird crap. I tell you who also has a lot of great stories, if you can get them to talk about it, is the guys that work the railroad.
Yeah.
Thing about it
Yeah, they've
is
seen
you
this
can
stuff.
never get them to go on the record because the railways are like, you will not talk about this stuff.
And Rhonda just brought up Michael Crichton wrote about the ones in Congo, and he also wrote the Eaters of the Dead, which is what the 13th Warriors was based on.
Mm-hmm.
That was the
Retelling of
Vendôme.
Beowulf, the Vendôme.
Yeah.
Jonathan says, my brother, cousin, and I had small rocks being thrown at us last night while we were fishing. Kind of creepy. Yeah, it's not something that squirrels are doing. It takes hands to throw stuff. That is a good book. You guys are absolutely right. It's one of my favorites. Movie's good, but I think the book's a little better.
Well, the book and the movie are really. It was hard to make a movie out of that book because this, DA, because you read the book. I read the book. The book is not written like a book that you would write.
Right.
It was written like it was a diary of what Ahmed Ibn Fahalad, which is Antonio Banderas' character.
Ibn.
Yeah. No, Ibn means son of.
Ibn.
Great movie.
Only an Arab would bring a dog to war.
I heard this the first time.
Love that movie. We could get off quoting that movie and be just about as bad as Tombstone.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord, yes.
Give an Arab a sword, he makes a knife. Can I give that to my daughter when you die?
Here we go again.
Sorry. It was my fault that time. Steve, you're going to have to snap us back to reality if we start getting off on quotes again, assuming you don't join in.
I was about to say, what are you talking about? He's going to join in, especially if it's a movie he knows.
Seriously. Well, when you're talking about how that was written more like a diary, I was thinking of the book World War Z. It was written as a series of accounts of the zombie outbreak. And then they took like one of those stories and made the movie out of it. But we won't go there.
Well, I actually watched an interview with Max Brooks after they made the what was it called again?
World War Z.
And after they gave him an advanced screening of the movie before they released it, and they asked him what he thought, and he goes, "Well, they used my title."
Yeah.
That's about all they used from it, because I've heard him talking about that too. Is he was like, my title's about all that was, that coincided with the book. And
I would be afraid that if like some big company bought the rights to any of my books, that they would do something like that. But then part of me remembers that I'm broke, and if they're cashing the check, if the checks are cashing, they could, I may not approve, but I could use the money.
Yeah, what was it that Stephen King said? If you sell something, somebody writes you a check, the check clears, and you pay a bill with it, you're successful.
Exactly.
Successful writer, yeah. But I guess Michael Crichton was really keen on cashing in on stuff like that. Obviously,
well, he's passed away now, but yeah, they made a lot of movies. They made a movie out of his book Sphere. Movie didn't follow too well. Hey, Mr. Spartan just became a member. Welcome to the Ex MachiNation, man. Thank you.
Wasn't Andromeda Strain Michael Crichton's too?
Yes, that was one. I think that was his first book.
Yeah.
Well, in the Jurassic Park stuff, I mean, it didn't follow very closely at all. In the books, Cameron was the bad guy.
Yeah,
he was a despicable son of a bitch in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Muldoon made it in the books, and he didn't make it in the movie, which was a very unpopular choice in the movie. That's why what's his name that played who played the guy in the second one, the one that shot the tracker that turned around and said, if you want to make camp on a game trail, I don't care, but I've hunted or I've led too many. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the main reasons his character survived in that movie, was because everybody was so pissed off that Muldoon didn't survive in the first movie, because he was like one of the most popular characters in the movie.
Oh, he's one of the most popular in the books too.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
well, he survived in the book.
Yeah. You know, when he has that Spaz 12 and he's
Spaz
sighting
12 is
in
a
and
nice
the
shotgun.
raptor comes up next to him, clever girl.
Yeah.
Best line in the whole damn movie.
Shoot her!
Wow.
Yeah, I liked that character. Muldoon was pretty freaking cool.
Yep.
But since we're trying to regroup and it's the bottom of the hour, let's hear a quick word from Doc while I try to pull my head out of my butt and get back on the topic. So here's a quick word from Doc over at Dark Angel Medical.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
And y'all make sure when you go to Dark Angel Medical, let them know that we sent you, and use discount code Cryptid20 for 20% off your entire order. And when you swing by, make sure to wish Doc a happy birthday.
Yep. Tomorrow or Monday?
I think it's Monday.
Do you realize his birthday was that close to mine?
Yeah.
Holy moly! Blue Devil gifted 50 memberships. That is awesome.
Blue Devil, you were awesome.
Oh,
Blue
you a
Devil,
badass,
man,
Blue Devil.
thank you so much.
We got, what was it, 5 or 10 last Wednesday night?
I think it was 20.
Well, thank you so much,
A whole lot
man.
of new members to the channel now, thanks to Blue Devil. Hey man, thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
You can't hardly. That is the exact definition of sharing the love. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Well, you only see the tip of the iceberg. He like gave us what, $200 the other night as a super chat.
Audacious Amber says, how do I change my channel to a personal channel so I can get gifted a membership? All you need to do is log into YouTube with whatever email. Usually a Google email works best, but log into YouTube with what email you want to use. It has to be a personal email, and then just share, like the show, like the channel, and subscribe, and you should put your name in the works for any of these drawings.
Yeah, because you just got active in the chat, I think.
Yeah, all you got to be is active.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That's going to be popping up for a bit. He gifted 50. Holy moly!
But
freaking awesome.
Let's go back to the movie analogies right quick while we're doing all this. Was what Crichton was, especially in 13th Warrior, or Eaters of the Dead, rather, was he basing that on something like what maybe a pale crawler would be?
Maybe.
Or something, because he kind of mixed in different cultures. So it's not like he was completely, basing everything on Viking culture. He had, I guess, Middle Eastern, I guess, is what they were, or whatever they were called at the time. I don't know if it was technically Middle Eastern, but what Iraq, Iran, Sudan, Arab. So it was being told from his perspective. So you don't really know exactly what, because he's going to put his own spin on it, so to speak. So was it based on something from Viking culture, or was what we were hearing through more of what he would describe that based on what he knew? That makes sense.
Yeah. Can you guys still hear me? My
We
video
hear you.
froze up.
Yeah, your videos froze, but we can hear you loud and clear.
I'm
5 by 5.
not entirely sure why it froze up.
Yeah, you look very serious though. It's got a good headshot for a book.
I thought I was confusing you because your expression didn't change. I was like, does that make sense?
I don't know what caused this. It's probably OBS.
That's what it was Wednesday night, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'll give it a few minutes to see if it fixes itself. But otherwise, I may have to pop out of the group and come back.
3D Havoc says too many subs froze you up.
It might be.
Yeah. The system's
I'm not
overwhelmed.
complaining though. I
No.
don't mind. I don't mind having to reboot it. I'm not complaining at all.
We broke the YouTube algorithm. There's
We
no
might
way
have.
50 people applied to this.
Well, you know, I mean, but seriously, I mean, is that book supposed to be what he would perceive these things to be based on what he knew, or was this based on what the Norse culture had? It's kind of an interesting dynamic, I guess, because you don't really know. Because especially if you read the book now, in the movie, it's kind of clear that they're talking about the Norse legend, but in the book, it's a lot more vague as to because it's told from Eben's point of view.
Well,
Yeah.
and in the book, it gave me I haven't seen the film. I feel bad that I haven't, but I've read the book. And in the book, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the whole, Teddy Roosevelt versus Bauman kind of stuff. It's like,
Well, yeah,
is this
that's
what
a
this
great point,
character
Steve.
saw, or is this something that he saw, and he, from being locked away in a rubber room with a self coat, he's writing about the other character.
I have never thought about it that way, but that's a freaking amazing point, Steve. Because you're right, it's written like he's kind of like from Teddy Roosevelt's point of view about Bauman. It's written as I went on this big adventure with these guys, and this is what they took me to see, and blah blah blah.
Right. It just, I don't know. It just seemed like, now granted, it's been junior high since I read the damn book. So, I've lost a few brain cells since then. But it seemed to me there was way too many specific details for him to be relaying a third person story. I don't know. Just my thought, whatever it's worth.
And in the book, it's the movie. He's with them. He goes on the quest with them, and he's like, they just kind of accept him, and he's there. But they accept him, and he's there because they kind of had to. In the book, if I remember correctly, it's more. He acts more like one of them in the book than he does in the movie. In the movie, he's kind of like, okay, and he kind of fought it up until about the point where they went in the cave, which I know you said you hadn't seen the movie, but in the book, it's just like, to me, it seemed like it was more, okay, well, you got to go with him, or I got to go with him. Okay, cool.
Right.
And in the movie, he kind of fought it a little bit more, even though they kind of edited it out. The ones you saw in the theater and there are some deleted scenes where he kind of fought it a little bit more, but for the most part in the movie, he was just like, I don't want to do this. Are you sure?
Yeah.
But in the book, he was just like, okay, let's go. When we leaving?
I got a question
me
from
up.
Mr. Spartan 40 I wanted to answer real quick. He's asked it a couple of times. I hadn't had a chance to get to it. He says, is there any notable Bigfoot or Dogman sightings in northern Idaho, close to the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho area? The only ones I know of for sure in northern Idaho, there's a place called Priest Lake. And there seems to be a large cluster of sightings around the north end of Priest Lake, including some hikers that have gone missing. Don't know much about Dogman sightings in Idaho, but it would not surprise me.
Yeah. My friend Eric that I've been trying to get on the show, he's had some Wendigo type sightings up around that same reservoir. So I still like to get his stuff, get his whole story.
Well, I think there's I had somebody ask me one time, or not ask me, but kind of make a statement that they thought the Wendigo and Skinwalker wise, that's pretty much the same thing, right? Ooh, what was that?
Uh-oh, DA just went through a portal.
Yeah, Something crazy just went nuts with my webcam.
Either DA just turned into a pale crawler or he went through a portal.
Okay, you're probably going to lose me completely. I'm going to shut. Well, my screen will probably go blank. I shouldn't leave, but I'm gonna shut down OBS and restart it. So if I disappear, I'll be right back.
Go. But anyway, Steve, they're like, Wendigo and Skinwalker. That's kind of that's pretty much the same thing. We're like, nah, there's a lot of difference between those two because some to turn into a Skinwalker, from the way I've heard William explain it, you have to want to do that. That has to be something that you have to want to do, and you have to, admittedly, you have to do something so dark and so despicable that there's not really a whole lot of chance of coming back from it.
Right. It's a voluntary thing, though. It reminds me of like changing from like a dark Jedi to a Sith, in the Star Wars world. There is a decision that is made and there's no coming back from it.
But with a Wendigo, it's not like, I've heard, and I know Ryan's in the chat, so correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan. Anybody, it can affect anybody. It's not whether it's, somebody could want to do it, but it could affect somebody whether they want to or not. Right. And it's a whole different type of.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Well, I cannot get OBS to reboot. Something is crazy wrong.
Wonder what happened.
Hold on a second. You guys go ahead. I'm going to mute my mic for a second.
Sure. We'll try to keep it going. So go ahead, Robbie.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So the process. I hate to say process like it's it's a job application, but the process that you would have to go through, or that you would go through, is completely, totally 180 degrees from each other as to how that happens. One, you have to actually seek. It's not like you could become a Skinwalker. Just somebody's gonna say, I curse you to be a Skinwalker. That's something you have to actually pursue, from the way I understand it. Whereas,
you're pursuing black magic or bad medicine.
Yeah. Whereas a Wendigo, that could happen. That could happen just because of situations or things that that you're in a bad time of the year, and there's a lot of hunger and starvation going on, and certain things lead to certain things, and that happens. But it's not like something you go, I'm going to pursue becoming a Wendigo. It either happens or doesn't happen. That's the way I understood it. Yeah. So, yep. And it's moving too fast. We put it up on this is what Ryan said. I guess I got the gist of it. It says, correct, Robbie. One can be influenced through their dreams, whether they want to or not. And I'm not going to try to pronounce that, but y'all see that word? Yeah, there you go. Dream spirits can cause them to be influenced by the Wendigo. So, yeah, that's you have to pursue becoming a Skinwalker. That's something you go after. It's not like it just by chance or happenstance happens to you. You have to actually pursue that and go after it. And like we said, you have to go down a dark path to do that. Situations in your environment and in your everyday life can cause things to happen to you that cause the Wendigo to come about. So now Ryan asked, I'll put this back up so we can talk about this. There's another answer from Ryan. If it'll come up quick. There we go. The Yunandaloshi can be forced to, in a way. If it's a heritage thing, some will become Skinwalker because their ancestors chose to be one. Okay, so I guess that's a form of
kind of inherited Skinwalker.
to quote a law enforcement term, but you'll understand, Steve, would be guilty by association or guilt by association. Hand of one is a hand of all type thing.
I was about to say it's skinwalker nepotism.
Yeah,
But-
yeah.
Yep.
So, I guess that's or the sins of the forefather, I guess, would be a better way to explain
there you
that. Depending on what your ancestors did, maybe what that's saying is if if this is in your family, so to speak, and you're not the best type of person and you make some shady choices, that things could happen. Whether you say, hey, I want to be this or not, based on the choices that you make, it could affect you in a very bad way.
Right.
If this is something that's happened in your family in the past. So, you may have had somebody who has chosen to do this, and you may not have actually sought this path out, but because of some of the choices that you make, it could affect you in that way, and that could happen to you regardless.
Right.
And apologize for y'all having to listen to me and Steve trying to keep everything going, but we're trying our best here.
So if you were to think if these pale walkers are connected to either of those, which one are you leaning towards there, Robbie?
Hey, there he is. I would say
Opa!
if I had to lean towards and this is personal opinion, I would think more Wendigo than Skinwalker.
I was kind of leaning that way too.
It
I can't imagine anybody voluntarily choosing to be a pill walker.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's just some depraved shit right there.
And not for nothing.
Robert East is Pale Walker. What was it? Pale Walker
Rakes.
equals. Oh, was that supposed to be Rakes or the Scooby Doo Scared? Rakes.
I think. Right.
Oh.
Mary Jane's a man in a mask. You're ripped. I'm not whipped, Scooby Doo.
Well, I'm back. What happened was, don't know why, can't explain why, but the drivers to my webcam corrupted while using it. Noah had to reinstall the drivers to the camera.
Well, I saw Noah
Things that make you go,
I said, tech support has been called.
Yeah. Yeah, I sent out an
tech support is
emergency
inbound.
call. So we try to keep it going, DA. I don't know if you heard any of that, but
I was hearing part of it, but I was scrambling to try to get the computer working, so I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention.
yeah. Well,
You didn't miss much.
all I can say is we tried. Steve and I are not.
I'm sure you guys did just fine.
It's off topic, D. But before we pull all the way back on topic, I had the pleasure of taking care of an Ojibwe man the other night.
Really?
And I knew his First Nations by his name and his appearance. And I asked him what tribe. He said, my family's Ojibwe. He goes, I do have some Lakota in my bloodline as well. And I said, oh, I got this writer friend. I said, he likes to write about the dog soldiers. And he kind of raised an eyebrow. And I said, yeah, Otamantaneo. And he goes, dude, that shit's for real, man. That's not fiction. That shit's for real.
That's what I heard.
And he wasn't scared of it, but it was one of those, the impression I got was, how the hell does a white dude know these stories? Because he took it very serious.
Which most of them do.
I just thought it was neat.
There's absolutely every reason to take those stories seriously.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I thought it was interesting. It was one of those, kind of, his reaction was not what I expected.
So, what's your answer to that question, DA, that Steve asked me?
Which question?
If you have to link the pale walker to Wendigo or Skinwalker, what do you link it to? Or
Me personally, I think it's more of a Wendigo link. I think there's something more along the lines of a Wendigo there. To me, it just fits more. A Skinwalker is, they become that by choice. I don't think pale walkers. I don't think there's a choice in that. I think that they're something, and I would definitely lean towards supernatural, which is what I think the Wendigo is as well. So I can't really say this is a cryptid, but it's damn sure frightening.
I think all this stuff is supernatural, paranormal, whatever you want to call it. I don't think any of these things are just your normal, average, everyday flesh and blood animal.
Yeah,
that ain't biological.
Yeah, there's
Anthony,
just way.
Alan, you guys have a great night. Alan, we'll be praying for you.
Yeah, God bless you guys.
Have a good night. I just based on the things that this thing is, or these things are said to do and are able to do or capable to do. There's just it's not in the realm of possibility that they're just creatures.
Right.
Because like we said any other time, can anything in the natural world do any of this stuff? Nope. Well, if it can't, then more than likely these things have got to be supernatural too.
Right.
Justin Oldfart says, what about the possibility they're demonic? Well, we've said that about the Wendigo, that it is some sort of primitive demon. Like a demon of starvation or a demon of greed of some sort.
So
that's true. Northwest Native Tracker said, funny, gorillas were thought to be supernatural once upon a time too. That's true. The British Museum didn't even believe they existed.
And they didn't believe a lot of stuff existed. Pandas, billy apes, gorillas.
Mm-hmm.
They don't believe anything exists till they find it.
And even then, until they've got a body on the table, they're still going to go, oh, it's just hearsay.
Hey, old Spence is in the house.
What's up, Spencer?
Spence.
Northwood says he knows his ex is demonic. Ryan says Wendigo definitely would not qualify as a cryptid. Neither would these pale crawlers if our beliefs are spot on. And I think we're right about that.
Yeah.
I don't think
100%
Wendigo
agree.
or pale crawlers, I don't think either of them are actually a cryptid. Could they be? We don't know. We don't have those answers. But considering the description of these creatures and the way they behave and the things they can do, my gut says that they're more supernatural than they are cryptid.
Yeah, well, like I said, just based on the things that follow them, the things that they do, the acts that they do, there's no way that's done by something that's just a flesh and blood creature. It's just
right. David Neal, I think so. I think the Fresno night crawlers are a type of pale walker. Just from the descriptions and there's only been a couple of sightings of the Fresno night crawlers, but they sound very much like a pale crawler. So very likely it's just another name for the same creature.
I wonder though.
Ryan's got a good point. He said, let's not forget the platypus exists, fur-bearing mammal that lays eggs, and it's venomous.
Yeah. I wonder how close to like the shadow people and what's the one when you see when you're asleep and you wake up or you're
night
is that shadow people? Not
shadow creatures.
Terrors, the old hag.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder how closely related they are to that.
I don't know. Other than the fact that they're both supernatural, to me that's just pretty much where the similarities end. Because pale crawlers are pale white, and most of the stuff you have experienced in night terrors is just like a black shadow.
Now, a lot of the night terror
Wolf.
stuff they think might be linked to sleep paralysis. Do you think the pale walkers could be something like that, or do you think it's something tangible?
I think it's something tangible because people are seeing it cross the road. In some cases, it's been reported to have possibly killed people. I don't think it's just a night terrorist thing. It's definitely something people are seeing.
Well, okay. Think about that. You've read Larry Coera's books.
Mhm.
Think about one of the things that he described. One of the zombies. What did he call it? The whites. Remember those?
Mm-hmm.
They touched you. You're paralyzed. A lot of the same similarities of some of these things. We're talking about the night terrors, like Steve just mentioned, not night terrors. The sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis.
Yeah. I think he might have pulled from some of these legends that we hear about.
He's done his research like I have. I'm sure he's pulling from a lot of different lore to incorporate into the books. I mean, if you're going to write about monster hunters, there's no better source than some of the Native American lore. Hawaii Wolf had a question. Said, isn't Uwharrie National Park in North Carolina a Bigfoot hotspot? Does North Carolina have any dogman sightings that you know of? I'd have to do some checking on the dog. Yeah, Camp Lejeune. That's right. There have been dogman sightings at Camp Lejeune, but Uwharrie is a Bigfoot hotspot. There have been a lot of sightings in that area.
I want to say Lejeune has dogman sightings all the way back to the 80s, 70s or 80s. I can't remember, but a long way back.
Got a super chat from Vincent Ellis. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Vince.
Greg House says, I had a report last week of a spotlighter seeing 3 red eyes, pale skin, upright creatures in a field in eastern Tennessee. There's one of the ones on the sighting map that I found was outside of Paducah, Tennessee, which that's in
Kentucky.
Western Tennessee, but that is Paducah, Kentucky. That's not far from LBL.
Paducah's where Johnny and I stayed when we were.
Paducah is just a few miles from LBL.
Yeah. We were like 11 miles from the park.
Yeah,
where we were at.
Robert Forrester says, was Green Eye a crawler? I don't think so. I think old Green Eyes is either a phantom, like a paranormal phantom that's stalking that battlefield, or a type of cryptid. I think it very possibly could be a Bigfoot creature. Hawaii Wolf says, Uwharrie is only 40 minutes from where I'm at in Lexington. I know quite a people that do investigating in Uwharrie. A lot of sightings in that area.
I'm going to be close to there next week.
Well, and I think sometimes there are people will see something and they won't know how to explain it, but they'll hear or they will have heard of another legend however long before they saw this, and they'll put, huh?
Snail kills me.
My husband sees the old heck every time he rolls over in his sleep. Oh, Lord.
But anyway,
go ahead, Robbie. Sorry.
Somebody will see something and they won't have an explanation for it, but they will have heard a legend, and there might be one or two little things in whatever they saw that reminds them of this legend. So you get I think that's a lot of times how you get certain things that have 1, 2, 3, 4, however many traits in common. May still be two completely, totally different things, but then and I think that's a lot of reason why you have people ask the question, well, are Wendigo and Skinwalkers the same thing? Because, they do share a few things that are in common, but if people have seen one and they don't have the what's the right, they don't have the right background to compare it to
experience.
Yeah, sometimes you'll get. I think like the Tennessee Wild Man's a very good explanation of that, or example of that. We did a show on that. You'll hear one person describe it, and it'll sound like a Gugway, and the next person that saw it, they'll describe like just like a Patty Gimlin, and then you'll have something that sound like a Genosqua. People just in that. I just think there's a convergence. Not to use that term again, as in the ley lines, but just that's an area where a lot of activity is, and people see that and they're like, oh, well, I saw this and it's big and it's hairy, so it's this.
Right.
Well, I saw it and it's got this, so it's got to be this. And it, like Steve said, lack of experience, and it just builds up over time, and that's where you get some of this overlap and some of this confusion of, well, no, it said this, but no, it did that. No, you know what I mean?
And like how no two eyewitnesses will describe the same thing the same.
Right.
Robert D says, so if they're not a rake type, what are we talking about here? And if you mean the Fresno night crawlers, well, there's only really been a few documented sightings of the Fresno night crawlers. So we can't say definitively if they're a rake or if they're a pale crawler or what, but the descriptions are very similar to pale crawlers. Rakes are a creepypasta. Those were made up on the internet, kind of like Slender Man. But that doesn't mean it wasn't the description of the rake wasn't taken from a pale crawler. There's a lot of similarities in the way they're described. But with the Fresno night crawlers, it is very difficult to say, since there's been only, just like I said, just only a few documented sightings of them. So,
and to add to Robbie's point,
is wide open.
Sure. And to add to Robbie's point a little bit here too, you have to understand the point of reference too. If you think about it, if you were to go back in time and ask a caveman to describe a jet plane, they don't have experience with a jet plane, so they're gonna
have that
describe it in terms of what they know. And the same thing would occur with like Dogman and Bigfoot. I felt I was pretty well read, but until I started reading DA's book, I had never heard of a Dogman. So if I ran across one of them in the wild, I'd call it a Bigfoot, because I do Bigfoot. It's big and it's hairy and it ain't me.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's Bigfoot.
And I think that's why, like we've talked about before, when you get that type 3 DA that we think that's on the Dogman chart, I think Steve just nailed it. I mean, I think that's why people, when they see that they don't have that point of reference, and they're like, oh, well, that's a type 3 Dogman, when it's actually a Gugway, because it's got the snout and it's got the kind of pointed ears. So, well, it's got to be a Dogman because it's got this long snout, it's got these long canines, and kind of pointed.
It's doggish.
Yeah, it's doggish. So it can't be some type of Bigfoot. It's got to be a Dogman. So that's what it is, because there's no point of reference.
That's why I disagreed with a lot of the 7 types of Dogman chart that was floating around. I think those top 3 aren't Dogmen at all. I think they're probably misidentified Gugway.
Yeah, but that they don't have that point of reference. Just like, up until 98 ish, there was no term Dogman.
Right.
So what did they classify everything as prior to 1998?
Well, even Kuhnbo, when he was on the other night, was saying that he took 2 Dogman encounter stories back in the late 70s and early 80s and recorded them as Bigfoot sightings because he didn't know what they were.
Yeah. And it's kind of like if I was not a sports fan and I'd never seen sports before in my life, and somebody said, hey, you need to go watch football. You're going to love this sport. You need to go watch football. So I'm like, okay. And I get on and I search football. Now, depending on where I'm at in the world, I may have American football come up, or I may have rugby come up.
Or soccer.
So depending on where I'm at, based on my search, if I put in football, I may get the point of reference of, American football or soccer or rugby or something like that. So
or arena football, or
my whole thought process, my whole point of reference, everything is going to be based off. If I have never seen it before in my life, my whole point of reference is going to be based off what I see the first time I ever see it. And then when somebody comes up and says, well, no, this is football. No. This is football. No, this is football. No, this.
Right.
It's like the big difference between wrestling and wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get me started, DA. You already did that before.
Yeah, Robbie could talk all night if we start talking wrestling.
No,
I mean,
wrestling.
pro wrestling, like wrestling as we called it, not
Yeah.
what they do in the Olympics or Greco-Roman style. We're talking power slams and atomic bombs and the Stone Cold Stunner.
Facts
And
on you.
you can't see me.
Oh my God, do you see the video with the messing with Sasquatch, where Sasquatch walks up and he's doing the John Cena thing?
No,
He does. Sasquatch does the John. Okay, I got to find that one.
Yeah,
I've got to find that one and watch it.
It's part of a Jack Link's commercial, and it's like the reason that we don't get better reports about Sasquatch. And it shows like several different things, and like the third or fourth one it shows is him sitting up and going, and I'm like,
Okay,
I was laughing my ass off.
think about that, Steve. Think about that. We all know how mainstream John Cena is. John Cena is everything. He's the freaking voice of Honda right now. Everybody knows who John Cena is. Now you got a commercial that you described that you got Sasquatch and John Cena. That's how mainstream really that cryptids are, but people just don't want to admit it.
Right.
Greg
That's
House,
because for so long they look at you like you're nuts if you admit it.
Yeah.
he knows when and where Coonbo's most recent booger sighting happened because it happened
do.
right there at Greg's house.
Yeah, I read the
Coonbo came down to
text
Greg's
message
to
the other
use
night,
his.
Greg.
Greg, he went down to Coonbo, went down to Greg's to be on a show because Greg's internet's better. And as he was leaving, one of them crossed the driveway in front of him.
Oh,
So you got to go with us,
super
Steve.
paradigm.
When we go down there and hang out at the man cave. You got to go with us, Stevie.
Oh
Boys,
yeah,
It
definitely.
is 9:02. Robbie, why don't you tell us a quick spiel about Scallywag Tactical, and then we'll jump back into some more sightings of pale crawlers.
Scallywag Tactical is another one of our affiliates, owned by it's a veteran-owned company, not an owned by company. Owned by Craig. Is it Burke or Burr? Burhart. I always try to get that wrong. Anyway, they make some of the best blades that you can find anywhere, ever. Just period, point blank, in discussion. Veteran owned, made in America. You just have to get one of these knives in your hands to understand how it feels. They've also merged with Gray's Customs. So there's some that knife DA held up before that the Razorback. That's one of the knives that they got from that acquisition. Very, very awesome set. Or there's not gonna be a knife that you're gonna want or need that you can't find on their website now. I mean, any kind of knife that you can think of. I don't have the fancy transformer like DA's got, but that's the Dugan. Steve's got what, 3 or 4 yourself, Steve?
Yeah, I've got got a couple of mini jacks. Got the what is it? The Orca.
Privateer. Don't you got a privateer?
Privateer. Yeah, got the Privateer. Got the Orca. Got the Wahoo. I carry the mini jack to work with me every day. That's my EDC because people can't be left without a knife.
I want to tell you the Wahoo's become my EDC. I love that knife. That's
knife.
an amazing knife.
I
Sharp
carry
as
it
a
all the time.
freaking razor. So
yeah. Well, I want a smaller knife at work, but I take the Wahoo on our little expedition out to the state park. I wanted to have a good grip on it. They would get the job done if I needed it.
And that certainly fits the bill.
Yep. So jump on Scallywag Tactical. Check out their blemish blades. Put you a blade or two in your cart. I started to say basket, but it's called a cart on the internet. Put it in your cart and use code DA Roberts at 10 or DA Roberts 10 at checkout. Words, and get yourself an extra 10% off, and that does stack with the huge discount you get on the blemish blades. And don't panic about blemish blades. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be something with a box.
Half of what I got blemish.
Yeah, just about every one of mine are blemished. I think my boarding axe is the only one that's not a blemish. But
I think one of my mini jacks isn't, but the rest are all blemished.
Yep. So jump on, check them out, tell them we sent you, and you won't be sorry. I mean,
some of the new ones that are out, I really want to get, but I don't
Yeah.
have money right now. We're financially recovering from having that done, so it's gonna be a while before I make any big purchases.
yep. I've got I carry, like I said, I carry the Wahoo with me on my uniform. That's what I carry in my pants. The Karambit's just called the Karambit, right, DA?
Yeah, just the Karambit.
Yeah, I've got the Karambit on my body armor.
That's a great blade too.
Yeah, I love that. I've got this is my camp knife, which is the Dew Claw. That is, you can't find a better camp knife than that. I mean,
Oh yeah.
from preparing food to cutting kindling to anything you need to do around your campsite. This right here is probably one of the best blades you could ever have. I've got my gunner's mate and my bounty on my go bag. I've got my boarding axe that I put in my go bag. I mean, there's not a blade that you can't find specialized for what you need or for your everyday needs. If you just want just a small blade to carry every day, they got you covered. If you want a specialized blade, they got that. Fishing knives, kitchen knives, everything. So go check them out. Tell them we sent you. That's all I got to say about that.
And don't forget to use discount code DA Roberts 10 at checkout.
I said that, but good saying it again.
Got to remind them. I got to get this comment pulled up. Spencer cracked me up.
He's good at that. The old possum.
Oh, it was House. There we go.
You said Spencer cracked you up.
It was House commenting to Spencer.
Oh, okay. Well, that's funny too.
So you pile driving a kindergartner for having gum at school. Kevin Bode says my bounty had a bad box, and that's the only issue. The thing about it is all of the bigger blades come in a collectible box. There's cutouts in it where you can display the blade. I use all of mine. I don't keep them in those boxes to be pristine. I don't buy a knife to set on the shelf. Everything I buy, I use.
And Rodney said if he's dressed, he's got his mini around his neck. I told you you'd like them things, Rodney.
It's a good little knife. I've got one of them as well.
Mm-hmm.
I usually wear it, but I don't wear anything under my shirt right now because it irritates the shit out of that.
You cannot go wrong with Scallywag Tactical. There's just any kind of knife that you want for any kind of anything, they've got something that's going to work. You just can't go wrong.
Knife for every need.
No,
and they stand by their stuff too.
Twisters with his buddies.
And they stand by their stuff too. You know, if you're a dumbass like me and use a good knife for a prying tool and you break it, you'll get a dressing down, but they'll stand by it.
Absolutely. Well, boys, we've kind of lingered on the Scallywag a little longer than I planned. We need to try to keep these to about a minute so we're not losing viewers. But when me and Robbie get to talking, a minute goes by pretty damn fast.
Get those two talk about knives, nothing gets done.
I try to go quick, but sometimes it just don't happen. Sorry.
Yeah, not to worry. Robin Ward said I wear out paring knives. I need new ones. The kitchen set from Scallywag's best set of kitchen knives I've ever owned. Bar none.
That was him this time, not me.
Yeah. Well, I saw that and had to make comment on it. They're the best kitchen knives I've ever had. Noah's already said when I'm gone, those are his.
He's plotting your demise. Mary Cole's laughing about Robbie talking about keeping his Wahoo in his pants.
Yeah, that's what I wear in my uniform.
Yeah, but
that's what they're laughing about.
I know.
Well, and then we're demonetized.
It's a Wahoo.
Yeah,
we'll but true. There you go. I digress.
E.D. Testerman's in the house. What's up, buddy?
What's up, E.D.?
But anyway, I'm going to read that encounter that happened just right over by Steve's house. And, that way Steve doesn't sleep well tonight, and he's probably going to sleep with a loaded handgun under his pillow.
I sleep with a loaded handgun anyway.
But I thought it was a pretty creepy encounter. You guys ready?
Go for it.
It says Southern Missouri creature. Late one night in July of 2019, I was driving on a back highway somewhere in southern Missouri. I think Highway 60, just southeast of Springfield. So, Steve, that's right over by your place. Yes, I was the only vehicle on the road for what seemed like quite a while. I had my high beams on and keeping my eye on the road, listening to music, when all of a sudden some humanoid creature ran at high speed across the road in front of me, causing me to swerve to avoid hitting it. I grew up in the Midwest, so I'm not unfamiliar with things that cross your path at night, but this thing left me absolutely terrified. I've never seen anything like it before or since, and I have absolutely no answer as to what it was. It was running on all fours, but it was big. I want to say probably 4 feet from the ground to the top of its back. It looked like a tall, lanky, skin and bones, bare skinned, naked humanoid with long black hair and a sunken face, with empty eyes that glowed white, like an animal in the headlights. When those eyes met mine, pure terror came over me, not knowing what I was seeing. The closest thing I've been able to find even slightly to look like what I saw is some of the drawings of skinwalkers or crawlers.
Yeah, just a method on bath salts. I saw him yesterday.
Yeah, totally. That's what it was. Said I would love for anybody to try to help me figure out what it was. It has not ceased to terrify me thinking of it since then. And I reached out to him. Hopefully I'll hear from him. But that one's right here, Steve.
Yeah. Oh, joy.
Yeah. Sonny Morgan says, now that's a nightmare. Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I've had things cross the road in front of me in my long beams and not known what it was. You know, granted, probably most of the time it was some sort of animal, but anytime you can't identify something, even though you get a good look at it, that's a brown pants moment. That's a butt puckering moment. And especially if it's something big on two legs, I guarantee you it ain't a pretty sight. But your butt cheeks will grab the material of the front seat of your car and start trying to build a nest.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, like your encounter you had, what was it, DA? When you're talking about something crossing the road in front of you.
Yeah, right
the one you had coming
near Lexington, Missouri.
Yeah. You know, you actually like watched.
Yeah, we watched it for a good long time. All four of us
in real time walk across the road in front of you and stop and turn around and look at you. Not a lot of sightings go that way.
Well, this thing was big. Whatever it was, it crossed the road on all fours in front of us. Annette still swears up and down she wants to believe it's a mountain lion. I don't think it was a mountain lion. For one, I drive an SUV. I drive a Nissan Rogue, and the hood of that Nissan Rogue is pretty high off the ground. Mountain lions' backs are not higher than the hood of a Nissan Rogue. It would probably normally a mountain lion's back would probably be up to the bumper of my car. Whatever this was, I guarantee its shoulders on walking on all fours were probably 4.5 feet off the ground.
Oh boy!
And when it made eye contact, and I had my headlights on bright, but the eye shine was so bright that I couldn't really see details of the head. I mean, they were just like flares. They were so bright. It didn't move like a cat to me. It moved like, I don't know, like.
Didn't you say that
like a canine?
Didn't you say that the color kind of changed?
At first, when it came out of because it came out of a cornfield on our right and crossed over and went into a cornfield on our left. There was about 40 yards of open ground, including the road for it to cross. And it came out of the corn, and when I first saw it coming out, I thought deer, and so I let off the gas and let the engine slow us down. Again, 4 of us in the car, all 4 of us see it, and I'm like, oh, there's a deer, and I start slowing down. But when it comes out completely from the corn, it's not a deer. At first I thought it was kind of that fawn deer color, but as it moved across, it started out like a fawn, like a deer. But the farther it got to the other side, the more gray it looked. But it looked like a big canine to me. So could have been an Ozarks howler, maybe. Could have been a dog man, maybe. There are sightings of both along the Missouri River, and we were less than 100 yards from the Missouri River at the time.
Any possibility it was just like a gangly ass bear?
One, it was the wrong color. I mean, you don't see You don't see bears that color in Missouri. I mean, there's only been like one documented grizzly sighting in Missouri in the last 100 years, and they're dark brown. This thing looked more fawn, almost like a deer when I first saw it,
Mm.
or a grayish. Again, hard to tell. But the way it moved, it was very canine and it was big. This thing's shoulders easily would have been a few inches above the hood on my Rogue, and that's not exactly very low to the ground.
Right.
It's not a huge SUV, but it is an SUV and it sets up fairly high. Northwood says dire wolf. I don't know. Maybe some form of dire wolf is what dogmen turned out to be. I don't know, but it was definitely big.
Well, we've had this conversation before about. I believe there are like what you saw in the LBLDA, you and Nick.
Mhm.
I believe that was just an animal, whether it be a holdover from the dire wolf, whether it be a totally separate species, just an animal.
Right.
I personally believe there are things like what in the olden days they would have called a werewolf that is not a flesh and blood creature, but is more akin to a supernatural thing. I believe there are those out there and that they do appear from time to time. But I think there are the normal, we've talked about it. If you hear people's descriptions, some people or accounts rather, some people are like, oh, well, yeah, like yours, DA. Oh, it's standing there and then nothing.
I
It's
didn't feel
all,
any. I didn't feel in
yeah,
danger or anything.
it's all,
I did the few nights before when I was down at DeMumbers Bay by myself. I felt threatened then, and when I backed out to take off, that was green eye shine, just like we saw down at Joe Bald.
but that very well could have just been because of what you were doing in that situation, playing
Mhm.
the dying rabbit call.
Right.
Or it could have been that you had something else coming towards you other than just an animal. Who
Well, it
we
was
don't
my
know because
mistake playing a predator call
yeah, but
because it worked.
we don't know because you never saw anything. You just heard it coming towards you. But the fact is, there are some accounts that are just like yours when you and Nick were driving through that are just, oh yeah, I saw it. It was just standing there and it noticed that we were looking at it and it ran off. Then you have the accounts that's like red eyes, demon, hellhound, lucky to be out to get out alive. So you've got conflicting stories about who they saw, what they saw, how it acted, why it acted this
Right.
way. I think there's more than it's not just the fact that okay, there's a dogman. You could have a good one or a bad one. There's dogmen which are animals which can either act good or bad depending on the situation, depending on the circumstances, depending on whatever's going on. And then there's things out there in this world that we just don't understand. Wendigos, skinwalkers, werewolves,
Ghosts.
ghosts, rakes, pale crawlers. That kind of stuff is here. It happens. We don't understand it. We don't know how it works. But then you got natural animals that are just animals. They're just doing what animals do.
Sometimes nature
Good.
is enough
And
of
it
a
could be
mystery
bad.
on her own.
Yeah. They could be good. They could be bad. It just depends on the situation. If it's just an animal. Sometimes
Well, like you said, there's a wide continuum in these sightings. You get everything from the one that just kind of looks over its shoulder like Patterson Gimlin style, and then you got the ones that have malice and they just want to tear you up.
and yeah, Spencer hit the nail on the head about the Mummers Bay. We talked about that the other night. That I talked about that on Jessica's show. I hate to be a broken record, you know this, but like I said, I felt like I was in a horror movie when I was out at the Mummers Bay.
I just posted it, replying to Spencer in the chat. But yeah, that night in DeMumbers Bay is one of the scariest moments of my life. There've been other moments that were just about as scary. I
Well,
was I don't know that I was quite as scared the night that me, Noah, and Robbie had that thing trying to get after us in Joe Bald, but it was pretty damn close. I think the only reason I wasn't is I wasn't alone. I was alone in Demumbers Bay, and I didn't have a gun on.
What?
Yeah. That's your first fuck up, my friend.
Me and Johnny were out there at 11 o'clock in the morning. And it, like I said, it felt like we were in I'm not 100% that Johnny felt the same way as I do. Because he has never like out and out said, yeah, I've got that feeling too. I kind of feel like that's what he felt like. And I've said it. If I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. You know what I'm about to say, DA, and so do you, Steve. If Jason Voorhees had stepped out from behind one of those freaking trees, it would not have surprised me. I would have not been shocked because that's the only way I can describe it. It just felt spooky, weird, out of this world, out of the ordinary, whatever you want to put.
You described it as evil one night.
Yeah,
yes. It just felt evil.
It did. And then that's
a great way to describe it.
Oppressive, spooky, depressive. I mean, any of those words you want to put on it are going to work because there were no sounds. I mean, like I said, you could hear crows that were way across the lake, or, you know, I would say probably 15, 20 miles away. There was one little bird that was kind of in that area that you could hear. There was no ducks. There were no geese. There were no possum. There were no squirrel. There was nothing. I mean, it was just, I hate to use this term, but it was dead. Because all we could find were, and I sent you the picture. Oh, I sent them on the group chat, so I'm sure you saw them too, Steve, of all those fish skeletons that littered the shore. And there may be a logical explanation for those. I don't know. I've never. Greg, Spencer, you may be able to speak on that, but there were all kinds of fish skeletons just strode all up and down the shoreline and all into the wood line.
That one, maybe. Let's just say for devil's advocacy's sake, let's say a fisherman caught several good-sized fish and just cut the fillets off and threw the rest on the shore for raccoons. That's possible, but when I was down there, I saw fish carcasses too, and they were back in the woods. They weren't like right up by the area where people were fishing. They were all, the bones were all over the shore. The skeletons were all over the shore. You know, they were up into the wood line. They were everywhere. There were no fishing line anywhere. We couldn't find any, because usually where people are fishing, you find stray fishing line all over the place. There were no floats, there were no hooks, there were no fish, no extra fishing line. It was just the bones. And these were not small fish. These were not like little brim. These were like this long with a head of a fish. It was like that big. Like I said, DA and Steve saw the pictures that I sent to them. I sent a couple next to that knife right there, and that's how big the skull was of some of those fish. Yeah, they were not small. The pictures you sent were large-sized fish.
Some of them tree trout.
Well, they weren't in the trees; they were just laying.
No, they're just all over the ground.
The one in Combs Ferry still makes me scratch my head because you don't find fish up in trees, nor do you find parts of deer basically stuck there.
These were rock trout.
Yeah, you were sitting there talking about that feeling you had at Demumbers Bay. You know, when we were down at because you don't have any point of comparison of the trip down to the campground. When we were down there, it felt like a perfectly normal, just old creeping out campground until the point where I felt like we were being flanked. And then I wasn't so much scared as it just felt like all the joy was sucked out of the world. That sounds stupid, but it's like, it was just, everything just felt dark. I felt depressed.
That's a very, very, very good representation of how it felt. It felt like, it felt gray.
Yeah.
That's a good
like the world just turned into twilight. and I was like, I couldn't understand it because, like I said, my frame of reference is not as evolved as y'all's. I deliberately avoid the shit that you guys run towards.
And you're probably the smarter for it.
Yeah, I was about to say, well, you're not.
It isn't
You're not
always a
quite as
good
dumb
thing.
as we are. But, and the thing is, the same type of, wow, this just doesn't make sense, hit at Combs Ferry as it did at the Mummers Bay.
Mhm.
Because we didn't find anything hanging in trees. Had this been one or two skeletons, I think DA's explanation might work or would have been a lot better. But this is like 12, 13, even upwards of 15 skeletons that we found.
Yeah.
And that's just that one area. We found more in other places, but just right there at DeMummers Bay where we were walking around, we found like probably upwards of 15 skeletons. Just
DeMummers Bay is like no other place I think I've ever been. It's just something about that place. From the minute you get there till I didn't stop feeling creeped out until I was back across the canal over in Grand Rivers. That north end of LBL is creepy, but DeMummers Bay seems to be a hot spot for creepy.
Yep. What and that we were not in DeMummers Bay, but we were not far from it when we had our little happening that night where we felt like we were being stalked. Robin, we found some things that possibly could be tracks, but the shoreline is like covered with rocks, so it's hard to find any tracks in there. And then once you get back in the woodline, the leaf litter is probably like that thick, so it's just like walking on a sponge.
Speaking of tracks, Wyatt, who's in the chat, sent me pictures that from the other night when him and Richard were up on Table Rock Lake. Same place they put the boat in before when we went over to Combs Ferry. Same place where they put the boat in from. When they came back, there was a track laying right next to where they had parked in the rocky soil. Looked to be about an inch and a half deep, and from he had put a magazine, handgun magazine, on the rocks next to it. And
Hey, DA, it's Spencer's bedtime. Tell him night.
Good night, Spencer. But judging from the length of that magazine, because I have the same kind of magazines, I know how long it is. Certain Austrian firearms producer, but it just from the look of it, that crack had to have been about 14, 15 inches long. Not as big as the one they found the first time I were out there, but the depth of it was pretty impressive. Because Wyatt said he couldn't get anywhere near the depth by putting his weight next to it.
So was this
just a couple nights ago?
Okay, so this is not because they found those tracks tonight that they brought us back.
Big. The ones that when the night we went out, the ones they found that night were bigger. They were probably 18, 19 inches long. This one was probably closer to about 14.
That's still pretty dang big.
That is a big track, and it was bare, so it's not like there was probably some 600-pound dude down there barefoot late at night walking around leaving tracks in the rocks, because it's all pretty rocky soil. So take that with a grain of salt, take it for what you will, but they put in near dark and they pulled out, it was well after dark. There wasn't anybody down there running around barefoot. I can guarantee you that. Not on Table Rock Lake. Ground's way too rocky to do that. But kind of pushing back toward the pale crawler thing. Yeah, I'm with Robbie. I don't know what to make of these things. I'm leaning way more towards supernatural than I am cryptid. Simply because they don't behave like an animal.
Yeah, some things you can look at and say, even if it kind of sort of like, we all know that there's people who say Bigfoot cloak, although we don't subscribe to that theory. And there's things that people say that Bigfoot does that is kind of weird. You can still we always say, you can kind of describe, or not describe, but you can kind of back some of the theories up, or some of the behaviors up rather, with things in the real world. But the things that these things like pale crawlers or wendigos or skinwalkers or any of this kind of stuff, the things that a lot of people describe them doing, there's nothing in the natural world that does the same kind of stuff that you can kind of say, okay, look, well, adaptive camouflage, owls,
Right.
Sharks, deer, bugs, insects, things like that. You can do that, but there's nothing in the natural world that does the same kind of stuff that these things do. Sonya's asking when you come into South Carolina, DA.
Well, hopefully not before not for too awful long. I want to get out that way and hang out with Robbie and go out to some places. Nathan Finn says, "What's the difference between a pale crawler and a rake?" I think the rakes are creepypasta, but I think the creepypasta was made up based on pale crawlers. Greg House says, "Did y'all know you can get a LiDAR app to use with some phones?" That's what we were told. I'll look into that. That would be damned handy. I definitely want to get out to South Carolina. So don't rule that out in the not so distant future. Sorry, I was looking to see if I missed any of the comments. Creepy 3D Havoc says, "What's a creepy pasta?" Creepy pastas are made up stories for the internet, like Slender Man. Yeah, they're stories that are basically told for entertainment value on the internet. A lot of them come from Reddit and other places like that. They're generally just somebody tells a story, then somebody tells a story based on it, and that kind of thing, and they kind of grow from there. But
Yeah.
it got to the point with Slender Man that people were actually claiming to see it. I don't know if that's what they call a tulpa, or if so many people believing in it brought it to life, or if it was just
Yeah.
people
Well,
wanting their 15 minutes of fame. But creepy
and
pastas by and large are just made up.
I think that's kind of, we've got the term creepy pasta for it now. But if you think about some of the stuff that Wes Craven put in the Freddy Krueger mythology or mythos, however you want to look at it, that's kind of like where creepypasta kind of took. Yeah, it's like where Nightmare on Elm Street and that stuff kind of stopped. Creepypasta kind of took over. Because if you think about the few lines he said in Freddy versus Jason, he's like, people need to believe in me. They need to be scared of me before I can have my power. It's kind of the same type of thing. Is that so many people, or so many people start saying, "Hey, I've seen this," or "Hey, I believe in it," and it just kind of more or less. A lot of like, what was the last one? Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That's what happened. Is they all the movies and all the people thinking, "Well, I saw this or this happened," and all this, that kind of brought that dream demon that took the guise of Freddy Krueger, which it wasn't actually Freddy Krueger. It was actually one of these demons, but it looked like Freddy Krueger. So that's kind of what DA was saying is, so many people have kind of believed it and said they've seen it, and they've just kind of manifested it.
I would think a demon would take the form of whatever it would scare the hell out of the person
Yeah.
the most. So.
Right.
Don Donaldson, DA, that's a good idea for a book for you. What all these things are and where a lot of the sightings are most often. That's not a bad idea. I may see about compiling a book of different types of cryptids, and probably get Robbie and Doc and Steve involved in it and see if we can't come up with something like that. That's not a bad idea. I would like to put out some nonfiction books. So You know, I think that would be a good one to start with, like a cryptid identification guide of some sort. We
You know,
are at the bottom of the hour.
I still like the idea of what you said about taking all the characters in the books and having each one of them kind of describe a cryptid.
Yeah, that might still happen. We'll do our last of the affiliates. Ken Brock over at Brock Blades, who's a skein do. Ken's a longtime friend of the show. He's a retired first responder. Was a law enforcement his whole life. Just a great dude, the tactical midget himself. But now that he's retired, he makes custom blades in the shop behind his house, and no two are exactly the same. They are all custom made by hand. So you know, you might think it'd be a bit of a conflict of interest with us promoting Scallywag, but they're apples and oranges. I mean, Scallywag blades are fantastic, but they are mass produced. So you know, two gunners mates will be identical. That doesn't happen with Ken's blades. And if you've got somebody in your life that's a first responder or a veteran or even active military, gift of a custom blade is something that'll be treasured. And these aren't meant to be just set on a shelf and looked at. They are functional and very sharp. So check out brockblades.com. Let them know we sent you. And use discount code Cryptid10 for 10% off your order. And, you know, send them some love. And like I said, let them know we sent you. I know one other thing we should talk about. Hold on. Hold on. There's a bunch of comments. Craig Schultz's DA, a field guide to cryptids, great idea. Don Donaldson says DA and put stuff to take on night expeditions. We're actually going to do a show about just what gear that we would recommend you take. And then Superfly has a kind of a long one. Says, what hasn't any one of you that actually squatch, investigate, not studied, where all of you are having serious injuries, heat, heart, stroke, cancer troubles, etc. Scott Carpenter troubles, broken leg. You know, if you spend a lot of time out in the woods, you run the risk of hurting yourself. I don't think there's anything supernatural or bizarre about the conditions I've dealt with, because I basically ruined my lower back in 30 years of working hard labor and wearing extra body armor. It wasn't all law enforcement. I did a lot of heavy work before that. Heck, I even worked construction for a while. So I think my back injury was just a lifetime of working too hard, and my heart issues. Probably because I haven't always had the best of diets, so I can't say there's anything cryptid related with that. But it does seem to be that a lot of people in this community wind up with some pretty interesting health issues. So it might be something to it. But in my case, I just think it was just bad luck.
You don't say. I managed to break my leg getting off a damn boat.
Rodney says, enjoy the research about cryptids you guys discussed, but I'll be damned if I'm going to look for trouble. Too old for that now. Oh, come on, Rodney. You know if I get out to South Carolina, you'll go with us. Come on now.
Rodney, you ain't got no choice. You're going. If DA comes down, if I know where you live, or at least I know where you used to live. If you still live in the same place, I know where you live. If you moved, I don't know where you live, but I'll find you.
This is good. 3D Havoc says, would also be a funny book if DA did a book from the point of view of Margolin. If Margolin had a daily diary of internal thoughts, I could see Margolin rating cryptids on, like, I don't know, the beer scale. How many beers it'll take before I'll mess with this thing.
Seriously.
1 to 10 on the beer scale.
Personally, I think Margolin would probably have a lot that were on the 1 to 2 beer scale.
Yeah, the dude ain't right. He'll mess with anything. He's that kid that everybody knew growing up that if he saw a snake, he's the one that grabbed a stick and started poking it.
I was going to say he pokes everything with a stick. That's
pretty much
my impression.
And as he got older, the stick just got bigger and more deadly.
Yeah.
Don Donaldson says, how many beers before I take it to bed?
That's what we're saying, 1 to 2.
Yeah, 1 to 2.
That's still.
Yeah, we'll have to work on something like that. That's something I definitely want to do at some point.
You know,
But I
Margolin doesn't set his sights very high, though. You give him a bottle of Boone's Farm and a Manscaped kit, and he's pretty much set for the night.
I don't know. He's caught Valkyrie's eye, so that's pretty high standards right there.
just wait till he sees the tattoo. The raspberry preserve scale. That fits.
Oh Lord! Oh
Yeah,
my God!
there'd be a lot of comedy to it, but it would also, have some serious information. So, I don't know how much I want to blend in, the humor of Margolin into it, because I want people to take the book seriously. But then again, how many people, other than those of us that are truly interested, take the subject seriously anyway?
Yeah.
That's why you do it. Each person has, or each character has their own. So you only have Margolin's humor on Margolin's account.
Yeah.
If Margolin's talking about the Gugway, then that's all Margolin gets to talk about. He doesn't get to talk about anything else.
Doc gets the Wendigo.
Have each one of them describe the one that that bothered them the most. And I know Clark could be hands down those shark men.
Yeah, he wasn't a big fan of the shark man.
No, he was not. Polite Wolf says, so he's the Steve Irwin of the Wild Hunt. Yeah, pretty much. Dave Neal says, how many beers till the raspberry preserves come out for a cryptid?
For Margolin or for everybody else?
I don't know. We have to determine a scale.
Depends on what they're drinking. If it's Guinness, it doesn't take too many. But if you're drinking, Flight, it might take a few more.
Well, I mean, like I said, that if it's the Margolin scale, 1 or 2. If it's the rest of us in the hunt, scale's going to be a little bit different.
Michelle says, if there's a movie, Mr. Steve would have to be played by a British guy. I'll have Hugh Grant play Steve.
Stiff upper lip and all. Oh my God. I had a patient one day, and I don't even see where they got the resemblance, but I had taken my mask off or something. It was like, during COVID. And it's like, did anybody ever tell you look like Jason? I'm like, no one's ever said that. What did I just give you?
Don Donaldson says, Greg, there's some phones that come with LiDAR. I've got to look into those apps. Yeah, I definitely going to look into those. Here's a thought, Steve, and Robbie too. Those LiDAR apps, I guess the way they would work is you scan the area, and the LiDAR takes it off. But what if you could use it in conjunction with the drone?
I don't see why you couldn't.
Have that active, because most drones you use your smartphone to fly them. At least the one I've got does. So if you've got the drone active and you've got the LiDAR active, would they work together?
I don't know. That's a good question.
3D Havoc says drone LiDAR would be real expensive, but I wonder if we could make it work with a drone that functions through your phone. Be worth a try.
I think the only thing you would have to worry about was if the apps being compatible. As long as the apps are compatible.
Eric Testerman the other night was showing something that he had. I was watching one of his shows, and he has this little camera attachment that attaches to the bottom of his smartphone that turns it into an IR camera. Dude, if you're still listening, Eric, if you're still listening, will you send me the link to that? Because I wouldn't mind looking into that. I mean, if it works as well as you say it did, I wouldn't mind looking into that, because if it's a cheaper alternative to buying some of the more expensive cameras, then maybe I can get it. I can get that something set up for me as well, because my thermal camera is dead, unfortunately.
Yeah, so is mine. I couldn't get it turned back on the whole time we were down there, or that I was down there last time. I don't know if I messed it up and packing it back up when I came back from LBL or what, but I couldn't get it to work back or to come back on the whole time I was down in Missouri.
Well, when we went down to Joe Bald, I couldn't get it to work, and I discovered that the batteries had exploded, and they were brand new batteries. The batteries had exploded inside of the unit, and we've got it all cleaned out. And you can put batteries in it, and it will power on, but then it just powers right back off. So I'd say it's pretty much boned.
Hmm.
Sonia Morgan says, if we get a GoFundMe for y'all's trip to Portlock, you'd raise more than you realize. Edie says,
Yeah.
I've got a video of me using it on my channel. It's on Amazon. Okay, I'll look for it.
Y'all, you ain't planning on going with us, Sonya? I thought you were planning on going.
Well, if we set up a GoFundMe, I think the first one would just be for getting the gear we need to start, because I would want to test it in the field before we tried to test it at Portlock. I want to know it's going to work and do what we need it to do before we go someplace off the grid like Portlock. Robbie and I and Steve and Doc would probably take it down to Joe Bald or take it over to Combs Ferry or even take it to LBL, someplace where we're still close enough to civilization. If something goes wrong, we can go get a part. But I want to work the bugs out of this system and get it working right, where we can consistently go live without without trying to field test it deep in the field like a Portlock for the first time.
Yeah, that would suck if we had never tried it.
Right.
Yeah, Sonya, you're part of the team.
I want to definitely know that it's going to work before we take it someplace like Portlock.
That would absolutely suck to get up there and be like, "We got it test this."
Work.
See what happened was.
Well, we would definitely want to test it several times. In the field, looking for trouble, looking for things to things to improve on, and to work the bugs out of the system, so we all knew how it worked. And even if we get it working around here or around Robbie, if we get out of Portlock and we are so far out of range we can't get a cell phone signal, the best we're going to be able to do is either try for a satellite uplink, which is going to be expensive, or just film and then present it. But I want to do live. That is the plan. Yeah, 3D Havoc, multiple backup batteries.
I still think if we can get your idea that you and I talked about that you had when I was in Missouri, I think that will work. I think we just have to get the right equipment put together, the right.
Well, I'm thinking if we go to Portlock, we do an extra extender. Put one on the boat and one goes with us. So we link to our own and link to the boat and go from there. I think that's the way to do it.
Yep. We put it on house. He can carry the repeater.
3D, actually, that was already thinking about that. I'm going to try. I'm going to pick up some Faraday bags and try testing that when we go back to some of these places where we've had equipment just go dead. I want to see if that will protect them from going dead, and if it works, then I'm going to probably invest in several Faraday bags to keep our backup batteries in. I know one thing we haven't talked about, Robbie.
What's that?
Where we're going to be in October.
Oh, yep, we hadn't talked about that yet, or this show. October, and it's just the Friday and Saturday. I went back and looked at it. Friday and Saturday are going to be the days it's open, not Sunday. Sunday's a shutdown day, I think. But anyway, so that's October 10th and 11th, I believe, if I'm thinking right. We pull up the calendar over here.
I've got the website pulled up.
Oh, you got
it? Is the 11th and 12th.
11th, 12th. The 10th, we're going up there. Yeah.
Yeah, setup's on the 10th.
So 11th and 12th,
So,
DA and I.
if we're already there on the 10th after we're set up, that doesn't mean we can't, meet up with other folks and do something on our own before the convention even starts.
Because I don't know that they're having a meet and greet like a lot of the other things that we've been a part of. I don't know if they're going to do that on that Thursday night. So they may do it on that Friday night, but that Thursday night when we get up there, we may be able
That's
to.
just over 2 months away, 68 days.
So me and DA are going to be at the Spirit of the Forest Bigfoot Conference in Greenville, Ohio. DA is going to be speaking. I'm going to be teaching a tracking class, and we're probably going to be
Probably also be doing a class on evidence collection.
Yep. We're probably going to be doing some overlapping with each other, and DA is probably going to be helping me out a little bit on my stuff, and I'll probably be helping him out on his stuff. So anybody that's in that area or wants to come up and, DA put the link in the description. Come out and see us. We'd love to see you.
Definitely.
I think you got a table too, right?
Yeah, I'll have the books there, and if you're going to be in the area, hopefully by then I'll have. Well, I actually should have a restock on the T-mode and patches.
And I'll probably have some laser engraved Wild Hunt and probably some Dark Frontier stuff. I'll get a good supply of stuff from laser engraved stuff to have at the table too. So I'll come out and see us, say hello, buy some merchandise, come to the class, come listen to DA talk.
It's going to be a good time.
Yeah. We're going to have and hopefully, I think this is the first year of this conference. So hopefully, if it really is a success, it'll get bigger next year. So I think it's going to be pretty good. Who else is going to be there? Naoma's going to be there.
Naoma's going to be there.
Yeah. Wayne, is it Tothrow? Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Yeah, Wayne Tothrow. And Barry Webster and Amy Bew.
Yep. So it's going to be pretty good. They're going to have all kinds of other. They're going to have if I understood it right, a dress like Patty contest. Come in dressed like Patty. I guess the one to Patty wins.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So y'all come see us. Say hey.
Don says that's a little far of a drive from Texas. I hear you, man.
Yeah. But that's if you can't make it, that's fine. If you can, great.
Yep, we'd love to see you.
Kevin said it's off of 127 north of Cincinnati and waiting for the rest. Littering and
good night, 3D.
And good night, 3D. Littering and
Oh yeah, it'll pop up in a minute, I'm sure.
I can't keep saying littering and sorry.
Yeah.
What I can do though is show the newest product though.
Yes, you can.
So I hate this is kind of getting to be an every show thing and showing new products that we're offering with the laser engraving thing. But if anybody's looking for metal engraved business cards, we're doing that now.
Put in an order.
Yep, DA's already got an order in. So yeah, what we're thinking about is now obviously if you just get a standard card, which is just like a standard card will be black, one side, minimum order of 100. What would we say, $40? I think, DA.
I don't remember what you said.
I think
it was on Facebook.
Yeah, $40 for standard black, one side. If you want a different color other than black, it goes up to $50 for 100. And then if you want double sided, it's 125 for 100. And DA now look at Etsy and stuff like that, so that's pretty competitive and actually pretty cheap compared to some of the prices we found on Etsy.
Some of them are pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Wyatt
So
says he'll probably put in an order, Robbie.
all right. So I know Noah's not here, so let me type it in. Noah normally puts my email address in, so I'm gonna put my email address in for anybody that wants to put an order in.
Robin, I'm still working on getting more Team Odin patches, but I should have quite a few at the convention, and hopefully it won't be long after that we can start making those available online. But at the moment, right now, I don't have the infrastructure in place to ship them, quickly and efficiently. So I'm probably going to have to wait until I've got that set up. Noah and I are going to be redoing our online store, and if I can get it set up there, I can probably sell them from there. But it's something we've been exploring. I'm not a big tech guy, so figuring all this out is kind of like pulling teeth. And Noah knows computers, but he doesn't know the sales ends of stuff. So we're kind of wading through this a little at a time, trying to figure it all out.
So my email is just put up in the chat. So, or if anybody wants to make an order, send me an email. We've also got the slate coasters. We got the challenge coins. What else did? Pretty much anything you can think of. Whiskey flasks, acrylic signs, canvas. What am I missing, guys? Help me out.
Coffee tumblers.
Yeah, tumblers.
Ball caps.
Ball caps. Yeah, we can do. I can do ball caps. So pretty much
engraving on a blade.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody saw earlier, but custom blade engravings. Somebody did ask earlier. That email address. Send me an email at that address, and let me know what you're wanting, and we'll work it out. And we can handle this. Like I said, DA's already made his order for cards. Let me know. I could probably even get, if anybody's interested in getting these little, these cool little holders.
Card holders.
I could probably find those and get those too if anybody is wanting those.
I might want one. I think that's kind of cool. Have you engrave on it too?
Yeah, because I mean it's the same material, so I can engrave on that too. So yeah, let me know what you want. Like I said, minimum of 100 cards for an order, because we got to kind of make it worth our while. I mean, if somebody just wants like 1 or 2 cards, it's probably not worth what it's going to cost us to mail it or to ship it rather. So got to make it worth your time and ours to ship it. So minimum of 100 cards to at least make it
cost effective.
Cost effective. And if you want one of these, they can be all be put in this, and then one of those little bubble wrap envelopes and shipped out. So let me know. That's all I got.
Says, where's the new Steve Lilly posted? I didn't even know there was a new Steve Lilly out.
Yeah, somebody said that Cam released a new one earlier today. It'll be on Cam's channel if it's out.
Which channel is the question?
Well, either his channel or his Steve Lilly channel. He only got.
Well, I'm just gonna go look.
Sonya said they're hitting the new Steve Lilly out.
I'm at the Steve Lilly channel right now. He hasn't got anything new. I sent him a story. He hasn't gotten back to me on it yet. So hopefully he likes it and does it pretty soon. But if you guys want to read it, it's on the Patreon. It's on the Patreon page.
Pretty good too.
Well, boys, it is 10 o'clock. I'm going to start wrapping things up. Appreciate y'all hanging with us. We've had a really good attendance tonight. The chat's been super active. Don't forget to come see us in Ohio if you're going to be anywhere near the area, because we'd love to see you. We'll be doing presentations, and I'm sure at some point in the evening we're probably going to find out. I know Robbie and me, we both clearly like to eat. We'll probably find a place to eat, and hopefully they've got a meeting room. So if any of y'all want to join us, we can have a whole group of us there and talk for a while. And that's even after the show. So something a little extra for those of y'all who want to make the drive. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're still building, we're still growing, and look for more of like what we did with Combs Ferry coming. We're picking up our equipment a little bit at a time. But since you guys are interested, at some point now that I'm recovering, we are going to set up a GoFundMe to get equipment. And hopefully, if it works out the way I'm wanting, we're going to start going live from places like Combs Ferry, which I think that's going to be a lot of fun because anything can happen when it's live. What we find, you guys see it as soon as we do. And I think that's the best because you get the pure visceral reaction whenever we find something or when we hear something or whenever something shows up. You get to see it as we see it. You don't get to see it as it's been edited for television and they try to make it look more dramatic than it is. Because we're not gonna downplay anything. We're not gonna try to make something make a mountain out of a molehill. If something happens, you guys are going to see it first. So bear with us as we get that set up, but it's something I'm really looking forward to doing. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm getting stronger by the day. The wound is, well, it's still kind of ugly, but the adhesive that's on it is starting to come off. It's come off in 2 or 3 big pieces. Once the adhesive's completely off, then I can go swimming and do stuff like that again. But now I'm already driving. I just can't use my left arm for much. I can't raise it higher than about here. I'm not supposed to raise it above my head. And I'm not supposed to lift more than about 4 or 5 pounds for the next 4 to 6 weeks. So I've got to kind of take it easy. And I can't really carry a backpack because that's still healing. And it's probably going to hurt like hell to have a backpack on it. But I've got a shoulder strap bag and other gear. And Noah and I went out yesterday and drove around some places looking for new places to film. So we've got some great ideas, some good places. And we were right out there where that sighting of a pale crawler was, right out on 60. So look for all of that coming in the very near future. And we're coming to the point of the show where we talk about the 22 a Day Foundation. And it's something I'm happy to talk about. ED says, just remember chicks dig scars. Yeah, my wife just rolled her eyes. I was like, hey, honey, look at this. She's like, yeah, whatever. That's the only one I'm worried about. Because she knows where I sleep, and I've got to go home eventually. But we're talking about the 22 a Day Foundation. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. And the toll that is also taken on our first responders is just as high, if not higher. We lose a lot of folks because they lose that struggle with the demons that are haunting them. Those of us who've worn a uniform, even medical scrubs or been a corrections officer, a patrol officer, EMTs, firefighters, any of us who have served on the front line have seen and experienced things that are hard to put away, hard to forget, and hard to live with. And reach out to your first responder and your veteran friends and check on them and let them know you're thinking about them. Because, again, 22 a day is 22 too many. So mark your calendars on the 22nd of every month and make that be the day that you reach out to all your veteran and first responder friends. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know you love them, because you never know when, hey, how are you doing? Might be that little text you send them might be what pulls them back off the edge for that day. And check on the ones you don't think need it. because sometimes the people that look like they got their crap wired the tightest are the ones that need it the most. So just bear that in mind, folks. And again, reach out and let them know you're thinking about them. And as we round this one up, we have been ending the show with a toast here lately, and it's something I'm very happy that we're doing, and something I plan to continue doing. And whatever you got a glass of, I've got my mason jar of mystery substance. I shouldn't say what it is. Robbie and Steve are going to join us, and if whatever you've got your glass of, doesn't matter if it's water, sweet tea, doesn't matter. Just lift a glass of something, and we're going to close out the show with a toast. It's from The Parting Glass, and the song's really about saying goodbye to those we've lost along the way. And the toast says, "But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night, and joy be to you all." Good night, everyone.
Good night. God bless.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on Ex Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.